Alright, so 2022's Black Panther Wakanda Forever is available now in theaters, and this will be my non-spoiler review. So for those of you who have not seen the film yet, you are safe to watch this video, or unless you just don't want to know anything or hear anything at all going into it, then maybe click off this one. But for those of you who haven't seen it, you are safe to stick around with this one. The spoiler review, as of posting this one, if you're watching this on the day it's posted, will come out tomorrow, which is a Saturday. I believe that'll be the 12th. So you can expect that spoiler review then. But yeah, let's talk about the movie in a non-spoiler type of way. It's directed by Ryan Coogler, who directed the first one, and the story is by Ryan Coogler, screenplay by Ryan Coogler and Joe Robert Cole, who I believe both of them actually worked on the first film together as well. So it's good to see both of them coming back for this one, based on the characters created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. In this film, we have Letitia Wright coming back as Shuri, we have Lupita Nyong'o coming back as Nakia, we have Denai Guerrera coming back as Okoye, we have Winston Duke coming back as M'Baku, Angela Bassett coming back as Queen Ramonda, we have Martin Freeman coming back as Everett Ross. Who else? Just trying to mention the people that are coming back from the first film, at least right now. Florence Kasumba as Ayo, and I think there was one other name there, but I do not see it here. So forgive me for that, for not mentioning that one character that was also a part of the Dora Milaje. But yeah, introducing to this film new characters, we have Tenoch Huerta, hopefully I'm saying that name right, as Namor, the Submariner. We have Dominique Thorne coming in as Riri Williams. We have Alex Livinall, is that how you say it? Livinali, as Atuma. We have, I think Aneka was the other one, played by Michaela Cole. That was the other Dora Milaje member there. We have Mabel Cadena, hopefully I'm saying that right, as Namora. And I think that's pretty much the main cast there. You also have Trevor Noah coming in as the voice of an AI created by Shuri. So that's kind of interesting there. But yeah, that's pretty much the main cast of this movie here. Let me grab my other notebook that has all my non-spoiler notes, if I can find it here. But yeah, overall, I think the action in this movie works really well. A lot of the fight choreography and just a lot of the action set pieces I think are spectacular and very well shot. There are some moments in there with slow motion, which I'm not always the biggest fan of, but when it came to the moments they used it in here, I thought it worked really well. And it wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? Tacky, I guess. Yeah, I mean, slow motion can be tacky in a lot of movies, but this one, it uses it sparingly and uses it in the right moments, so I can appreciate that. But yeah, overall, the action and just the fight choreography and all that, just how it engages you into the fight and gets you on the edge of your seat, that's what this movie does very well. Another thing this movie does very well is handling the emotion of the film. Obviously, Chadwick Boseman has passed away and will not be carrying on the role of Black Panther. And this movie starts off, and I'm not trying to spoil anything, but it immediately starts off by hitting you in the feels, and it gets you from the very beginning. There are multiple moments in this movie that made me cry, in the beginning especially, a little bit towards the end. And I feel like there were a few other moments as well that made me tear up. But there were a few times in the movie, especially in the first viewing, where I was just completely ugly crying. Second viewing, the emotion didn't get to me as much because I was expecting it, and I was also seeing it not even an hour after getting done with the first showing. So a lot of it I was obviously expecting, but there's still emotional aspects, even just an hour later, that still got me. So I think that's a good thing. But yeah, a lot of the emotion here, obviously, since the passing of Chadwick Boseman, it has to be felt in this movie. And I said this in a bit in my initial reaction/thoughts video, but the idea that they pay homage to him, or homage, I should say, they pay homage to him in several different ways, but at the same time, the fact that he's gone doesn't control the whole movie. It doesn't dictate the whole movie. It's a very present theme in the film that he is gone, but it doesn't control the story in any way, shape, or form. This movie, even if Chadwick Boseman hadn't passed away, this movie could still stand on its own without that context. So that's also a really good thing. Lots of really good things about this movie, really. A lot of the acting in here is incredible. I mean, everybody involved does a really great job. But in particular, Shuri, I think it's a really great story arc in this movie, more than I was kind of expecting. There are some aspects of it that I didn't necessarily love, but then by the end, they kind of pulled it all together. There were a couple things that I felt like maybe were a little swept under the rug and just like not really focused on again, but for the most part, I think her story arc was definitely the best out of all of them in the film. She's the one that gets the main story arc, so I would definitely say even just listing her first, because on IMDb it lists her first in the cast, I would definitely say she is the main character of this film. You don't immediately start with her character, or actually, yeah, you do. Never mind. Sorry, that's a bit of a spoiler there, that I just said that you immediately start with her character, but yeah, I mean, she's the main character of the movie. That's a bit of a spoiler, I guess, saying that it starts with her, but oh well, I mean, I guess there's a lot worse things that I could give away, but yeah, let me see here. Yeah, upon second viewing, the emotional moment still got to me, that is for sure. Oh yeah, some negatives here. Some of the CGI in the movie didn't quite do it for me. There were some elements that looked a little unfinished and a little weird. One in particular, I'm not going to, like, obviously spoil the whole scene, but basically you have Namor on his throne, his little shark jaw throne, which is badass as hell, and he's talking to his people. And just the way that he's moving, and these are all underwater shots, so some of the underwater shots are mainly the only bits of CGI that look a little weird. When he's talking, it almost was like his mouth wasn't going quite along with the words he was saying. Just, it seemed like there was like a split-second delay, ever so slight. It doesn't ruin anything, but, I mean, Marvel in the past has been known to not give their VFX artists enough time to work on their films, and this kind of just feels like an instance of that. There's some scenes in here where the CGI just doesn't hold up too great, but I mean, that's really my only biggest complaints about the movie, aside from there are 1 to 2 characters and a few themes that seem to not add a whole lot to the movie overall. I was going to save this for the non-spoiler review, but I feel like this is, or not the non-spoiler, I was going to save this for the spoiler review, but this doesn't feel like it's going to be like a huge spoiler that's going to ruin the movie for anybody. If anything, it might just like help people with expectations. Martin Freeman as Everett Ross, barely in the movie, and the little bit that he's in just doesn't seem important at all. So I'm not necessarily sure if it's just because he was in the first film that they felt obligated to have him in this one, but one thing I will say about Martin Freeman is he's looking good these days. That's the one thing I will say. He's in good shape. Maybe not like Thor shape or anything, but, you know, for a man his age, who hasn't really gotten into that shape before, pretty nice. That sounded weird. But let me see here. So with Namor, he's the villain of the film, obviously, and the thing I love about the first Black Panther movie is that Killmonger is one of the best villains in all of Marvel. Is Namor one of the best villains in all of Marvel? I wouldn't say so, but he's also not even close to being the worst. Basically, my biggest complaint here is in the first Black Panther film, Killmonger's end goal and his motives and the things behind it, they make sense. His, you know, maybe not the end goal, maybe not what he's trying to accomplish, but like the reasons why he's doing it, you can understand. And when it comes to Namor, you can kind of understand it, but they don't give you enough to really feel for his character the way that you did with Killmonger. And yes, it's easy with Killmonger because his dad was killed, and spoiler alert for the first Black Panther, I guess, but his dad was killed by T'Challa's dad, and also like he had to grow up in a really rough neighborhood, and you have the whole cousin aspect. You can't really do that with Namor, obviously, but I wish they would have given him a little bit more to his backstory to make you understand why he wants to do the things that he wants to do. Other than just, oh, we showed up one day and we had these colonizers just like whipping people that looked like us. That's messed up for sure. That is messed up. Well, maybe now I understand it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I kind of understand the backstory a little bit with him. And also, if I gave away too much of his backstory, I'm sorry, but I don't really think I did. But yeah, overall, like, I just wish they would have given him a little more of a reason to do why he's doing and allude to why he's doing what he's doing a little bit more, as opposed to just showing one kind of flashback to explain it and not really giving it too much context. Like, sometimes showing is better than telling. But also, I feel like in this instance, they probably should have showed a little more and told a little more. But that being said, his backstory was still told very well. It's just the aspects of him being a villain, I wanted to understand why he's doing what he's doing a little bit more. But I mean, humans are shitty, so for the most part, we can almost always understand why villains are doing what they're doing, because, yeah, we're not great. We're not great. But yeah, let me look at some of my other notes here. Trying to avoid the spoiler notes that I have in here as well. Yeah, they just didn't go as in depth with his motives as they did with Killmonger. Let me see. I think those are all the notes I pretty much have in terms of my non-spoilers. But there are some surprisingly brutal moments when it comes to the fight scenes. Some stuff that I wasn't expecting there. And then what was the other thing I was about to say? The action in the movie is solid. Oh yeah, the Ironheart design. Didn't really care for the design of the Ironheart suit. I don't know. There's something about it that looked a little too perfect, if you know what I mean. Like when it comes to the CGI, it just looked a little too glossy, not rough enough. I know it's like made out of metal and stuff, and it's like smooth metal, but still, even with the Iron Man outfit, I just feel like there's a little more detail and depth to it than with this costume here. They have plenty of time to kind of upgrade and change it a little bit for the Ironheart series, but yeah, we shall wait and see with that. Dominique Thorne in here as Riri Williams, I thought she was pretty great. They didn't give her... Here's the thing. With Miss Marvel, the thing about her is that you got her show before Captain Marvel, or the Marvels, I should say, which still hasn't even come out. And the reason why I'm actually excited for the Marvels is because of that character in particular. And with this, I almost feel like they... Sorry, I was losing my balance there for a second. With this, I was kind of hoping that they almost would have given her show before, but then just with her making her suit and stuff like that, it probably wouldn't have made a whole lot of sense. But I kind of, in a way, would have wished that she would have gotten her own show first and been introduced there, and then finally got to see her in this. But overall, I thought her character was good in the movie. And I'm intrigued to see where they go with her show. I already know Anthony Ramos is in there as some Red Hood character. Not really sure what the name of that character is. And also possibly Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto might be showing up in it. So that's interesting. But yeah, we'll really have to wait and see how that show is when it comes out. I could even see America Chavez getting her own show. That'd be cool. Just give all these younger versions, like Young Avengers. That's what they're building up to, right? That seems like it, at least. So I hope that's like a Phase 7 title. I don't know if they probably won't do that in Phase 6 with, and that's Phase 6, right? With Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, I believe so. It doesn't seem like a Phase 6 thing because Young Avengers basically is an Avengers movie. So I don't think they'd want to have 3 Avengers movies in one phase. So maybe possibly a Phase 7 thing in Young Avengers, have Riri Williams in there, have Miss Marvel possibly. And there's a bunch of, younger characters they could do for that. So that's just kind of setting some of that up. I feel like at one point, sure, he probably could have been on the Young Avengers, but with so much time passed since the first Black Panther, probably best to just make her an adult at this point, huh? But yeah, Shuri, she's great in this film. Letitia Wright does an amazing job. Everybody, you can tell that the emotion is real when it comes to talking about T'Challa, Black Panther. You can tell that they really lost the person and that they're pulling from that real emotion of actually losing somebody you were close to. Yeah, I mean, it's an emotionally heavy film. I'm not going to lie, there's little to no humor in the movie. There is some, but little to no humor. They take it quite seriously, which for a film like this, to tackle the subject of having somebody as iconic as Chadwick Boseman, having somebody as iconic as Black Panther not be around anymore, there's a certain seriousness you have to take with this film. You can't have it be super jokey. And I think with this movie, paid a lot of respect to Chadwick Boseman. Even though he's, like, technically not in it, you still, again, and even the actors and writers and stuff before the movie came out were saying this, you can still feel his presence in the movie. And even if you don't feel it throughout the entire film, like some people kind of said, you still feel it in the moments that matter most. And overall, I think this is a really great Marvel movie. It's, in my opinion, better than Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and Thor: Love and Thunder combined. I did not care for those movies. Both of those movies probably won't end up on my top 10 of this year, but there's a good chance this movie will. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to really wait and see, but I have a feeling this movie will make my top 10 favorites of this year. And honestly, I feel like Love and Thunder and Multiverse of Madness would probably make like my top 15 to 20 just because I've only seen so many good movies this year. But this is definitely a standout for sure. And I'm not trying to like compare it to other random movies, but do I like it more than some of the other movies I've seen this year? Maybe after like one or two more watches, possibly, but I don't know. There's some other movies this year that really got me. So we'll see where this ends up on that list. I'm sure it will. Overall, I'm going to give this movie I'm going to do an 8.5 out of 10. That feels fair. There's some things in there that I don't necessarily love, but it doesn't, like, none of those things really ruin the movie for me. But they do take it down a few notches for me just a little bit. There's just some things in there that don't feel completely necessary, like the character of Everett Ross being in there. Kind of feels like he was just shoehorned in there because they're like, oh, he was in the last movie, and he was a relatively big character, so we should bring him back. But, yeah, I mean, there's a few surprises in the movies for sure. There's definitely things to be spoiled, so try to avoid it if you can. But yeah, overall, I mean, it's not one of those movies that's going to have people like, oh my God, like, spoiler alert for Multiverse of Madness, seeing John Krasinski as Reed Richards. It's not going to have any of those like, oh my God moments. Maybe one. But aside from that, like, this movie isn't afraid to like not go super huge when it comes to cameos and Easter eggs and all sort of stuff. I'm sure there's plenty of Easter eggs, don't get me wrong. And there's also some cameos in there that you might not have realized, and maybe some that you did, and I don't know. There's definitely things to be spoiled, but not as big of a level of spoiling something as it was for Multiverse of Madness or for like Endgame. This isn't like Endgame level spoilers. This is more like maybe like Ant-Man level spoilers. Maybe not quite that far, because there's definitely some good juicy things in here that you're not going to want to know going into it. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this review here. Thank you all for watching. I will be back tomorrow. If you're watching this the day it was posted, I will be back tomorrow with my spoiler review for Wakanda Forever. So stay tuned for that. Leave a like on the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload, and I will see you in the next one.